We love Sea Salt by Sherwin-Williams, don't we? It's an incredible, cool muted green with some blue undertones that has been associated with many color schemes over the years, a lot of which have somewhat a coastal feeling to them. Whether you live by the water or somewhere completely landlocked, sea salt can make your place feel like the beach is just steps away from your door. Today we're going to talk about this paint color, and I've also accumulated some matching paint colors that can work with it, whether you need more colors in the same room or just different choices for other places in your home. This is Color Quickie. I am James from the Paint People. Poke that like button to show your support, and let's get into this. Sea salt is a tranquil, muted green-blue hue with a really calming, relaxed effect on the mind, at least whenever I see it in person. And it also pairs beautifully with a variety of coastal and transitional and even modern farmhouse design styles. Whether you're looking to give your living room a fresh, beachy vibe or your bedroom a really peaceful, serene atmosphere, sea salt is just an awesome choice that I seem to turn to many, many times. I also think it's pretty versatile as a paint color. For starters, it has a bit of a muted tone, which allows it to blend seamlessly with both warm and cool color schemes. I mean, if you really wanted to double down on that beachy feel, you can add some crisp whites or some more sandy colors. You can even use it as a subtle accent wall color if you wanted to add a little pop of color to your space. But for a majority of you, however, this is a paint color you're likely to use throughout an entire room. So I'm talking all the walls. Its color code is SW6204, and it's also kind of a light-ish paint color, officially within the green family of colors. How light or green it will look in your home is pretty dependent on how your space is set up, including your flooring, your furniture, and your lighting. Let's get a bit technical here because Sherwin-Williams provides us with a ton of information on their website about all their paint colors, specifically sea salt. By clicking on the full details dropdown on the newly designed website, looking good, Sherwin, the first thing we notice is the LRV, or the light reflectance value. This, of course, is just a scale from 0 to 100, and the higher that number is, the lighter and brighter the color will appear in person. That's because it's reflecting more light back at you. Lighter colors tend to be favorable in those areas that aren't getting a ton of light coming in, and that's because more light is going to be reflected back into the space, which will make it brighter. And sea salt is in a pretty ideal range at 63. A lot of designers will agree that paint colors for walls, interior, that are around maybe 60 to 65 LRV, they're pretty ideal because they're light, but not too light that you won't notice the color coming off of them. And in my experience, I have found that sea salt can actually lose some of its coloration in the situations where there's an overabundance of natural light. When there's a ton of light coming into the windows, maybe you'll start to lose that green aspect that makes it unique. But for a lot of situations, you're gonna notice that very subtle tone of green mixed with a touch of gray and maybe a dash of blue. The green will be accentuated in rooms that get warm lighting, whether that's from south-facing windows or incandescent bulbs. And then that blue undertone will be way more prominent in the opposite set of circumstances, which would be north-facing rooms or anyone that uses really bright blue-leaning LED light bulbs. It is sort of on that cusp of feeling green, but also kind of blue. But in pretty much any situation, it should feel a bit soft and fresh. But as a lot of you know, this is a very popular color. It's used extensively, and I think for good reason. I would classify it as one of those perfect secondary colors in rooms, like your bedrooms and bathrooms, maybe dining rooms. There's also not a lot stopping you from using it as a primary color that you would maybe put in your hallway, for example. Just be aware that you're getting a very soft, cool green, not gray. So if gray's what you're looking for, don't pick this one. So what about some other wall colors that work with sea salt? Well, duh, I got them for you, my friend. We'll start with an easy one, and that's retreat. I say easy because this is essentially a deepened version of sea salt. You can even look at the color codes of both colors and see the similarities, where you start at sea salt and then you shift down a few colors to retreat. It has quite a bit more depth with an LRV of 21, which is quite a bit darker, making it much more of a statement that will feel a bit prestigious, but also fairly positive with the abundance of green. It's a much more desaturated or softer green than the forest greens or the emerald colors that I like to recommend quite a bit. But if you're talking about pairing something with sea salt, you can't really go wrong here. It's really an easy choice as an accent color within the same family, or even in another room where you want that same rough color hue, but just have it feel much darker and deeper. The next choice I have for you is Shoji White, which is a little more along the coastal side of things, I would say, as this color sort of resembles a beautiful beige white sand. It's just over 10 LRV points lighter than sea salt, so there's just enough contrast between the two where one will definitely feel lighter than the other, but more so than the lightness difference, it's the undertone difference that's going to be most visible. I mean, you have one that's kind of a cool gray green, and then the other, which is more of a creamy off-white beige that has a touch of earthy gray to soften its warmth a little bit. I love this color more so as another wall color in maybe a different space within the same house, let's say. One of those rooms where you want a little bit of added warmth, a little more brightness, yet still maintain a soft overall look, so the flow is still going to be cohesive. You could use it as a potential trim and baseboard color, but I have a much better one a bit later on in the video that I prefer for that purpose. My third color pairing isn't very coastal at all, but it does pander a bit to the current trend of red-based paint colors. It's called Moroccan Spice, and I liken it to a different, darker version of Red End Point, which is Sherwin-Williams' current color of the year. While its undertones are definitely red-leaning, you do get a lot of brown mixed in as well. So it will still have that natural feel to it compared to the other colors in the palette. It's not going to be just dynamic red. I would say this is a more complementary choice to sea salt because their undertones are really going to accentuate each other in red and green. So of the three, this is my definite accent color choice, whether you decide to use it in the form of accessories and furniture, or even just a separate accent room, maybe dining room, powder room, or any other room that you really want to draw focus to, or just have a different vibe altogether. Finally, let's talk about trim colors, because you're going to need to paint your baseboards and doors and frames. And if you're painting them, you got to know which color to paint them with, assuming you're using sea salt on your walls. Normally I give you a light and a dark option, and I'll still do that. But to be honest, I do prefer sea salt with much lighter trim, generally speaking. So I'll give you Homburg Gray first, which is an even deeper alternative to sea salt, and it combines slate gray kind of with cyan. This color has a 15 LRV, so definitely the darkest color in this video. It also feels a little bit colder because of that deep dark gray aspect mixed with the green. But my real choices are both on the lighter side of things. First is high reflective white, because it'll give you the brightest, cleanest white trim that'll allow sea salt to really pop off next to it. It just gives you a maximal amount of contrast going with white trim. And the other is the slightly softer option in Snowbound. And what I love about it is it's a gentle off-white that feels a bit cool without looking blue in the slightest. I find it to be a great fit with sea salt, and I would say that it's my most preferred trim color with sea salt at the moment. Here's the color palette all together. Let me know what you think. And here's another color quickie if you want to keep learning about different palettes. If you made it this far, subscribe for our 6 videos every single week, and you can further support our family-run business by clicking the join button and becoming a member today. I can't thank you enough.